sun will rise in the sky. Another hope and dream to be alive. Time can pass 1,000 seasons and never give up on its reasons. This new day calls our name. Light up the day with love. We'll find a way as one. Across the world our lives unfold. We're here together. Every moment now, a song to sing out loud. Every road we find, we climb. We are one.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Well, hi, everybody. Can you maybe put in the comments and let me know where you're tuning in from, and then we will start in a moment. Let me turn on my diffuser. I'm running One Heart and Gary's Light. Right? It's like the best. I love Gary's Light and One Heart together. You can try that. So nice. So blessed to have oils every day, right? Okay. Today, I'm just gonna start. Is there a way where I can see who is on? Okay, hi. Hi, James. Hi, Yan. Hi, Phoebe. Hi, Colleen. Hi, Lynn. Hello, William. Okay. The video that I'm seeing is a little bit delayed, so anyway, I'm gonna start. Yeah, well, I usually won't blend blends together, but when I'm diffusing, I think it's okay, you know? And I feel like when I'm diffusing blends together, I get both, the benefit of both. But you know how essential oil chemistry, actually, you're not supposed to really put blends together sometimes. But since you're diffusing, I think it's okay, right? Okay, today we have a ton of information. There are like 50 different slides. So I'm gonna start. It's gonna be, I think, 2 hours. So if you need to leave or if you need to go to bed, then just go ahead and tune off and then come back to rewatch, and just remember where you drop off and then come back the next day, because this live is going to be kept on this group. Okay. And then, so today, the information that I will be giving you will be based on a few books, which I'm going to show you. Well, the first one, of course, is always the D. Gary Young Seed to Seal book written by Mary. Okay. As always, this is the best book you will have for your Young Living journey, other than the Desk Reference, which now they have a new version, but this book is really good for you to really understand how Young Living was started and where Gary came from. Okay, so this book, as always, which you can buy from your VO. Okay, you can, all you need to do is log in, and then I think it's under books and resources or something like that. Okay, and then the second book is, this is a very old version of the Desk Reference, actually, but it's a very small book. It's printed, this is the second edition that I got. It's printed in 1996. It has a lot of information on Gary and how he started, a lot of photos, which I really treasure. I did not join Young Living in 1996. I joined in 2011, but I scoured the internet of all the books that Gary has written. So this is one of the ones that I have. It's an old book, somebody's written in it. It has somebody's phone number. And then the third one is this book. Look how young Gary was. This is called An Introduction to Young Living Essential Oils. It's probably something that came with the starter kit. I don't know. This was a little bit newer. 2002, but this is like the 11th edition. So this is the 11th one. I don't know how many, probably 11 years. So since, I don't know, 1991, he started writing this. And also a ton of product information, the lymphatics, the limbic system. Oh, there's something that I'm gonna take a photo and post, not from this book, but from the previous one, this one, from the one in 1996. There is, there was an article written by Daniel Penoil. Oh, here, Daniel Penoil. See, I'm going to take a photo and post this into the group so you can all read what he wrote. Pretty cool, right? Okay. And then this book. I'm going to be talking about a little bit about the author here, Philippe Mathieu. Okay. So these are the little books that I have collected. I love books. So I am going to share today's presentation. And we now have a few people online. There we go. Okay. Everybody can see it, right? Ooh, uh-oh. Hold on. Sorry. All right, everybody can see. I am going to, can't see here. Can you like this? All right. This is good, right? Ooh. How am I going to do? I'm sorry, I'm not really very good at this. I'm learning along the way, as we always do in Young Living, right? Okay, I think I'm good. All right, hi Eddie from Fort Polk, LA, and hi Maggie, hello Danielle. I'm gonna start. So today I'm going to be talking about, oopsie, I'm still moving my screen around. I should get more prepared next time. Wait, oh, I won't come out. All right, okay. Sorry. All right, okay. Today I am going to, let's go back to last week. Do a quick recap of last week. After the accident in 1973, Gary was paralyzed and wheelchair bound for 27 months. And when he started walking, he was walking with a walker. And when he was wheelchair bound and paralyzed, he became depressed and suicidal. He tried to kill himself twice, but failed. And he felt so useless because he couldn't even kill himself. So he decided to starve himself to death by only drinking water with lemon juice. And to everyone's surprise, not only did he not die after more than 200 days, he could suddenly feel his big toe again. And then his dad went and scolded him. And he told him that if God did not take your life after that horrible accident, there must be a purpose for you to be here. So he sort of woke up and he started looking into natural remedies because he realized that what he did was fasting and allow the nerves to regrow. Okay. And then in order to have a clear mind, he stopped taking all the medicine that he was taking. And he started studying and learning from many different teachers and all things natural. And eventually in 1975, he began walking again without assistance. And then he later opened Young Life Wellness Center in Southern California. And he also had a little clinic in Mexico where he would drive down every weekend. And by the word of mouth, he was seeing a lot of patients in his wellness center and his clinic in Mexico. Okay. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about how he started with essential oils. Okay. All right. So how he found real essential oils. So this was the little book that I read. And this is a story that Gary told by himself. I actually listened to this in person. And he told me that back in 1983, there was this Swiss lady by the name of Anne-Marie Buller. And she is, I think she's still around. And she's a German Swiss. And she brought her sister to see Gary in California. And because her sister was sick and she heard that Gary was really, really good at what he did. And so she brought her to Gary and wanted to have Gary help her. And then after Gary saw her sister, she asked Gary, what do you know about essential oils? And Gary said, oh, those little bottles in the New Age shops, I've tried them. They don't do much special, nothing special, not much effect. So I've been there, done that, not interested. And then Anne-Marie continued. And so, oh, okay, Mr. Young, those are not the same. Sorry, there's a typo here. Those aren't the same. And I have here in a scientific report about real essential oils. The original of the report is in French, but I've translated it for you. And would you be open to read it? And she left it there for him and asked him to call after he has read it. And he was very busy, as he always is, and he only had time to read it late at night. And when he was finished, he could not contain his excitement, which was like 4 a.m. So he waited and he waited until 6 a.m. and he called the phone number that Anne-Marie Buller had left for him. It was a number in a hotel and a room number. So as soon as the phone connected, before it rang, somebody answered, hello, Mr. Young? So actually she has been waiting for his call. So Gary asked him, how can I find out more? How do I know more? And so Anne-Marie was very excited because she knew that Gary would call her. And she said that the next day, I'm going back to Switzerland. I'm going to attend this essential oil conference. You're welcome to come with me. But Gary said, but I don't speak French. And then she said, I can translate for you. And so he went he went the next day, he was on a flight to Geneva. And in that meeting, he brought back a few oils with him to try. And subsequently, he continued to travel to Switzerland and to Europe to attend all these essential oil references. And in 1985, Gary brought with him 13 oils from Switzerland back to the United States and then started to experiment and research. Because he, remember how he know lifelet analysis, right? So he used lifelet analysis to check the effects of the essential oils on his patients. And he found that when he added essential oils into the nutritional products, they were absorbed much faster than those without essential oils. And so, okay, sorry. Okay, and then afterwards, I got all of these from Gary's blog, so which I've already posted the link in the group. It's a little bit difficult to find the information, but if you use keyword search, they will all pop up, okay? So he said that in 1985, he attended a seminar actually, I think this information is a little bit wrong because in 1983, he bought the 13 essential oils from Switzerland. I have a typo here, okay? And then here in 1985, he attended another seminar in Geneva, and they were taught by Jean-Claude Laplace and Paul Durafoot. And then these were about therapeutic essential oils, and he brought these back. And he tried, and this is very interesting. The first year I conducted research and did various blood studies in lab animals and a few human patients. The results were mind-boggling as I discovered how the oils could increase cellular oxygen and promote immune functions. It was surprising to learn how many grades of essential oils existed and that most essential oils available in US are the lowest grade and quality. The Melaleuca oil, also known as tea tree oil, that I was using in my clinic was 4th to 5th grade quality. When I purchased 1st grade top quality Melaleuca oil, I witnessed a dramatic improvement in my results. Hold on a second, I need to ask somebody to close the door. And so after 13 years after his accident, he still suffered with immense pain and had very great limitation on and only be able to walk in a short distance. Despite having used essential oils extensively in his clinic, he had never really tapped into their benefits until he experienced particularly severe bout of intense pain upon awakening one morning. The essential oils literally transformed his life. Within 3 days, he was walking without pain. And a week later, he was jogging for the first time in 13 years. And in November 8, 1986, I entered a half marathon and finished 60th place out of 970 participants. This life-changing power of essential oils intensified my desire to learn more about the healing's benefit and prompting him to embark on his multi-year worldwide investigation that spanned 3 continents. Well, actually, eventually it became 5 continents, 7 continents. How many continents are there? And over a dozen countries. So I actually made this myself a few years back. You can see that it's a little bit old. I made it in 2016 after learning from Gary, after about 3, 4, 5 years learning from Gary. And I decided to make this. And I've actually shown this to the corporate scientists. They said this is very accurate. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the little triangle about the different grades of essential oils. This is actually a better proportion to it. More than half of the essential oils on the market are synthetic, altered, and adulterated. They have added lab synthetics and contain chemicals and agents. Later on today, or later on in the course, I will be giving you more information about how they're adulterated and what we do in order to make sure that we don't put solvents and artificial scents and chemical agents in it, okay? And then about around this many are natural and organic. They're certified organic, but they may still contain chemicals, agents, and solvents and stabilizers. And then there's food grade, which is the Swiss and French clinical and culinary use. It may be consumed orally, but do not contain the comprehensive and all appropriate constituents in order for an oil to be at their best quality. And then this is the highest quality. Some may be consumed orally. Well, most of them can be consumed orally, contain comprehensive and appropriate ratios of the essential oil constituents. In the episode, in the chapter where I'll be talking about essential oils, which is, I think, if I remember correctly, is episode 10. So it's like lesson 10. I'll be going extensively into the testing of essential oils, the GCMS. I'm not going to go into how to read it because I don't know how to read it because it's not what I do. But I can tell you extensively, and I'll show you how to compare GCMS, which is in lesson 10. So stay tuned, okay? Today, I'm just going to be touching a little bit about quality and what he did. I'm focusing more on the first 10 lessons. I'm focusing more on what Gary did, okay? Feel free to screen cap this and share it with your friends. It's all open. We've got nothing to hide. We're very transparent, okay? And then, so how do the French, so let's go back to how do the French people actually use essential oils, right? I think when we talk about essential oils, we need to know where we came from and how people actually use these oils in that part of the world instead of the British way or the UK way or the English-speaking world way, okay? I like to call it the English-speaking world. So these are photos that I took by myself. These are my own photos, and I took them in France, in Paris. These photos were taken, if I remember correctly, it was 2015. It was during one of our diamond retreats. It was the diamond retreat where Gary opened the Croatia farm. And so I actually got sick when I was in Croatia because the weather was so cold at night. And I caught a cold. So when we're I think, in fact, on the way to Paris, I was already running a fever. So I was aggressively using oils on myself. And I actually usually brought capsules with me, but I've finished all my capsules. And knowing that, I've heard that in the French pharmacy, they actually sell empty capsules. So I went down to the pharmacy across around the corner, and I was in the middle of Paris, and it was quite a tourist area. So I don't know if you've been to Paris. If you've been to Paris, give me some likes. And there are tourist pharmacy where the tourists go and get their like shampoo, makeup, bath gels, and personal care products. And then there are the real pharmacies where they sell medicine, right? And so I went to the tourist pharmacy and I asked them, and they didn't have anything like that. But I went to a real pharmacy where nobody spoke English because I speak French. So I walked up to the pharmacists, and I asked them in French if they sell empty capsules, empty vegetable capsules. And she asked me, "You mean vegetable capsules for essential oil use?" I said, "Yes." And then she asked me, are you looking for ones with essential oils or the empty ones? And so I said, well, I'm looking for both. I had no idea that they were selling these ready-made essential oil capsules. Okay. And so I bought all of them just for the heck to try, because I like to try stuff. And because they're selling them over the counter, I believe they were safe, right? So they were safe indeed. And I took them and I actually used them along with my own Young Living essential oils. I took them according to the instructions. And here it says there is peanut oil, gelatin, glycerin, and then a mix of essential oils, oil of peppermint, oil of girofle, it should be like cinnamon, if I remember correctly. And then it's thyme and lavender. And Cannelle de Ceylon is cinnamon. Girofle is clove, I think, if I remember correctly. Okay, so this is this. And then this one, it's for nez and gorge. It means nose and throat. And it contains a complex of essential oils in thyme. And it's good for soothing the throat and the respiratory, okay, clearing the respiratory, okay? And it is organic sesame oil and fish gelatin and essential oils of lavender, thyme, Laurea nobilis, and eucalyptus radiata and rosemary, okay? And water and glycerin, and this is like a humectant. I don't know what you call it in English. Okay, so that was what I bought in Paris. So this is just what I talked about just now. And other than that, they also have a whole cabinet of essential oils that can be taken orally. Okay, and then they actually also sell this little sugar where you can put the oil in and then pop the sugar pill. And this is not, it's not a sugar pill, it's like a sugar, and how you can take the oils orally. Okay. All right. And then, okay. And then please do remember that you're welcome to screen cap this and then share it on your Facebook and make Facebook posts and hashtag 101 reasons for YL. Okay. So this is my own personal experience. And when I go to France, I used to go there quite a lot. I used to go there once a year because my dad has business there. And so we would go, and even all over France, if you go to the pharmacy, the more local pharmacists, the more you can find this, okay? And in south of France, it's like all over the place, in Paris, even in northern France. It has they sell this very commonly in France, okay? All right, let me see, next. All right, okay. And back in the days when I first started, back in 2012, when I would look up information on using essential oils orally, in English, I would not be able to find anything, but I would be able to find it in French. So in order for, and interestingly, I remember back in 2012, 2011, when I first started, I looked up information in French, and the whole website would talk about how you can use it like in cooking and put it in capsules and all of that. And then it's a French website, and that website does have an English version. And it has, I remember that there was this little button that says English. And I clicked onto it thinking that the whole site would be in English. In fact, when I clicked onto their English site, there is no information on orally ingesting essential oils. None. The website was totally different. It doesn't talk about cooking with essential oils. It doesn't talk about putting the essential oils in capsules or in sugar cubes for oral ingestion. None. It only talks about topical and aromatic. Isn't that interesting? Same website, same brand of essential oils. And just for the sake of showing you, this was, I think, screen cap like a few days ago. I used French to Google and I found all of these websites. So I Googled essential oil for cooking and I found all these websites. Okay, essential oil through oral ingestion, essential oil for internal uses, how do you ingest essential oils? How do you use essential oils internally, and how do you take essential oil without danger, and 8 essential oils for cooking. And you can see that it's anise, basil, clary sage, laurier, mint, rosemary, thyme, fennel, and lavender. Okay, and all of these results that you can actually use essential oils orally. Okay. All right, so making essential oils infused products and supporting health, and this was what Gary did. So he started studying. He started going to France and Europe and learning about essential oils. So because remember how in our last lesson we talked about how he used herbs, and then Gary, through his years of practice, he realized that the liver is the key to health, and he always talk about it. I don't know if any of you have worked with him. He always talk about the liver loving club, LLC, liver loving club. So he taught that the liver, the key to our health, it's the key to cleaning the liver. It's the most important thing. So he has created all these to help clear the liver. I still remember that when he was teaching about hormones, he talked about cleaning the liver. And he said, if your bowel, if your large intestine colon isn't clear, then even if your liver throws out garbage, the toxin will go back into the bloodstream and recycle through the liver. So it's like a bad cycle, right? So that's why he always taught that it's very important to make sure that you are having good bowel every day. Actually, you're supposed to be pooping after every meal. So if you're eating 3 meals a day, you should be pooping 3 times a day. If you're eating 2 meals a day, you should be pooping twice a day. Okay. And unfortunately, most people don't nowadays. And it's even, some doctors even say that it's normal to be pooping once a week. I mean, come on, you're not breastfeeding. If you're drinking breast milk as like a baby, then yeah, maybe you poop once a week because you absorb all the nutrients. Otherwise, if you're eating food, no, you should not be pooping once a week. You should be pooping once or twice a day. Anyway, so he made all these supplements to help clear the toxin from the liver and the guts. And remember how he created Juvatone, Comfortone, and ICP and phytogreens was one of these first essential oil infused supplements. Oh, if you don't go to the toilet very often, are you on Life 9? You should be you're drinking enough water. The first thing, most important thing is drink enough clean filtered water. That's something that Gary always taught, at least 2 liters a day. The best thing you can try is, I'm going off topic here, but since I saw your comment, I have asked people, I've suggested that you can do a glass of warm water. So have a thermos cup like this, something like this that keeps warm, put hot water in, and then the next morning, put 1 drop of lemon and 1 drop of peppermint vitality in and drink the whole thing. 500 ml, warm water, 1 drop of lemon, essential oil, 1 drop of peppermint essential oil, and then drink the whole thing first thing in the morning. Before you go to the bathroom, before you brush your teeth, do that. Try it. Hey, why don't we all try that? Anybody who's listening to this, I want you all to try that. Every morning when you wake up, drink warm water. It has to be body temperature, okay? Not cold, not ice, because I'm going to talk about this in the supplement class, which is, I think, the 13th class. But do that. 1 drop of peppermint, 1 drop of lemon in 500 ml of warm body temperature water, first thing in the morning. Okay. All right. Let me go back to ICP, Juvatone, and Comfortone. And interestingly, the first batch of products were handwritten labels. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about that. These were already printed labels. The first were handwritten. I don't have photos of the handwritten labels. I wish I did. I hope Mary does that, because Mary is still going through the things that Gary left in his office. So it's interestingly, the first batch of products were handwritten labels that were glued on. And interestingly, when these products were shipped to Nancy and Eldon, I don't know if you've heard of them. Nancy and Eldon, one of the first people who knew Gary and asked Gary to help them. And they live in Texas. And when they first received the bottles, the glue all melted from the heat in Texas and all fallen out of the bottles. And so they had to like, okay, what is this? What is this? They have to open the bottles and tell. But if you have been using Young Living products for a while, you know what they are just by looking and smelling them, right? So later on, he added Scotch tape, make sure that the label stayed on through transport. And note that these labels said Living Young. And then note that this address is in Nevada. This is the address. Just for the sake of showing everybody, this is Nevada. This is the address where Gary was before he moved to Idaho. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Okay. And then Vita Greens, I managed to find a bottle, the photo of Vita Green. And this was actually what multigreen was before. It was called Vita Green. And this is the information from the EODR, the Essential Oil Desk Reference. The multigreen clinical experience has shown that before putting essential oils in the multigreen formula, there was a 42% blood absorption rate in 24 hours. After adding the essential oils, blood absorption rate increased to 64% in 30 minutes and 86% in an hour. This concludes that the cells are now receiving more nutrients than they had previously not been able to assimilate. So by adding essential oils into our supplements, they have noticed a big, gigantic jump in absorption. Right? And that's why our supplements and everything that we make are so bioavailable. We always talk about bioavailability when we're talking about essential oils, supplements. Sorry, not essential, about supplements, because the bottle, I mean, you're taking a capsule of that. How much are you actually absorbing, right? And what does the body do with things that we did not absorb? Right? Does it poop it out? Does it stay in our body somewhere? Does the body keep it somewhere? Does it become something else afterwards? So bioavailability is super important. And that's why when we're taking our supplements, we notice changes overnight, right? I literally, personal experience, I've had effects overnight with Agilis, with Silverzyme, with Essential Zyme, not overnight. Essential Zyme, it was like within 3 hours. Detox Zyme, immediately within 15 minutes. Yes, remember Elton, right? And Nancy, yeah. And so I personally have amazing results. And Illuminize, we have results like the next day, within a week. It's our supplements are amazing, right? Ningxia Red, immediately you can feel the difference, right? Ningxia Red, Zinc, Nitro, you can feel it right away, right? Detox Zyme, Essential Zyme 4, Essential Zyme, I can feel it within a few hours. Multigreen and Omega Gies are probably the slowest to see the difference. Honestly, if it weren't for lifeline analysis, I probably would not have known that it works so well. I suggest a lot of people use a multigreen and Omega Gies to smooth their bowels instead of Comfortone and ICP, because I found that a lot of people are very toxic. So using ICP and Comfortone, sometimes it makes them even more blocked up. So I love using multigreen and Omega Gies for clearing out the bowels, right? So for the nice lady who is talking about how you don't go to the bathroom every day, or often, other than trying that, drinking the warm water 500 ml with lemon and peppermint, you can also start taking multigreen and Omega Gies. Usually we see results in about a month, and hopefully in 2 weeks if you're drinking enough water. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about is this integrated aromatic medicine guide. This actually is my own copy. I actually have it in my bookshelf. The bookshelf is here. This is actually a photo of my bookshelf. I have these copies. This is my own photo, and this is a very special first International Symposium on Essential Oil. This was a record from 1998. And it was mentioned at the symposium that research on medical essential oil mainly come from France, Switzerland, Belgium, and other French-speaking countries, while English-speaking countries, regions have a completely different method of using essential oils. Okay, and later, Gary discovered that in addition to studying with the French, there are also many historical records of essential oils in the Middle Eastern countries. I'm going to show you in a bit. Okay, and these are photos that I took out of that book. Do you guys want to see the book? I have it. And these are proceedings from the first International Symposium in Graz in 1998 from March 20 to 22nd. And this was actually translated and printed by Essential Science Publishing. So introduction and opening speech by Danielle Pinoel, and he's an MD, and then fighting gynecological infection with aromatherapy. I'm just reading these, okay? I'm not saying that our oils can do this. I'm just reading a proceedings from the first international symposium back in 1998, okay? And then quality criterion for plant-based pharmaceutical, and then all these different, you can zoom in, you can screen cap and read it. This one, maybe you should not share on Facebook and on social media, just for your own record, okay? And then except for Gary Young, the 17 experts who gave their speech were from France, were French speaking, okay? There was one French living in Romania at that time, who was Pierre Francon. He's also very famous. And one from Germany, one from Belgium, one from the French-Canadian province of Quebec. So the whole symposium was in French, and this was a translation of the original proceedings, okay? All right, and then there's a story of David, which was also printed in this version, in this proceedings, okay? All right. Do not screen cap. I have redacted the parts where you cannot see, you should not be seeing. This is the story of Gary retelling his experience. In 1984, in December, David arrived at his clinic. This was back when he was in Mexico, okay? And then 1984, in December the 28th, he started using frankincense on him. Note that this was way before Gary had his own farm, okay? He brought all these essential oils from Europe, okay? And then whatever that was growing on David stopped growing after 24 hours. And in January the 5th, he started, whatever was growing started shrinking and separating from the skin. And on February the 2nd, it continued to shrink and it started detaching on February the 20th, and new skin started growing. And then in March, he was completely separated and continued to treatment because his brain was also affected. And he finally made a full recovery after 6 months in May 1985. And this was a photo of him, his wife, and his pretty little daughter going home. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go by this page so that we all know that Gary actually have documented a lot of his uses of the essential oils, and a lot of them were very, very successful. Okay, and then this also from the same proceedings. You see how he said here, cultivating and distilling therapeutic quality essential oil in the United States. Okay, this was Gary Young in Payson, Utah. Okay, and then also there was a lot of different MDs sharing the experience, the in vitro and in vivo evaluation, and all of these really, really good information on essential oils. Okay, and so Gary also shared his knowledge on how he cultivated and grow and distill essential oils, and the test results that he's receiving, and how the quality is very different. Okay, cultivating a plant and method of distillation of essential oils are actually more advanced and well researched by Gary comparing to the French. This is something that is very interesting. This is actually not a lot of what was David's problem. You have to use your imagination. It is the thing that we shouldn't be talking about. So I'm not going to be talking about it. Okay. So these are all proceedings. It's very interesting how after I've read this, I know that Gary actually is doing this way better than what the French were doing, and I will show you in a moment. Okay, and then another story, because we're here to tell stories, right? Another story of Donna Reilly. Some of you might have seen her at convention, and when she found Gary, the doctor said she had 2 more weeks to live, and this was, I don't know how long ago this was. Okay, and this is Gary, and this is Donna. Nowadays, I took this photo in 2016 convention. This is me, this is Donna. She's beautiful, she's fit. And Gary formulated Comfortone, ICP, and Theramin for her 30 years ago. The doctor said she had 2 weeks left. Gary had to give her 30 Comfortone to get her bowel moving and over 10 Theramin to wake up her thyroid. And I'm not telling you to take 30 Comfortones, please do not. And please do not take 10 theremin, okay? It's just a story that we can tell. And Donna was actually a singer from the Lawrence Welk show way before my time. This was a show from 1955 to 1982. For those of you who live in the US, maybe know what this is. I don't. I Googled and I found this. And I found that it's a show that people sing and dance on it. It's a pretty nice thing, pretty nice show. And so she's 84. This is my own photo. It was taken in 2016. This was in 2017. And this photo was taken out of the Seed to Seal book. This is Donna. And this is Clint Walker, who actually passed away, I think, the same year that Gary passed away. She's beautiful. You can see that she's healthy and she's fit. I actually asked her what is her secret to health. She said Young Living products and dancing every day. And she's still dancing every day. Isn't that amazing? She looks amazing. Can you imagine 30 years ago, somebody told her that she was going to die in 2 weeks? Okay, so you can actually look this up. This was from the D. Gary Young vlog. Look her up. Gary gave her the Spirit of Young Living Award. Gary also gave her KNB, the tincture for kidneys. Oh my God, you guys have to. If it comes back in stock, you guys have to get KNB. It's really good for the kidneys. So this was Thiamin, just to show you. Okay, essential oils. All right, so Gary started growing aromatic plants by himself, 1988. Well, actually, yeah. So 1988, he closed his clinic in Mexico and he moved to Sparks, Nevada. Okay, and then later on in 1989, at the end of 1989, he moved to Spokane, Washington, because the weather there was more suitable for growing aromatic plants. And he had an acre behind his office and he started growing lavender in the land behind his office. And he got these lavender plant seeds in his boots. I'm sure you've heard of this story that he sneaked lavender seeds in his boots and he brought them back and he grew them in his backyard. Okay. And usually lavender, it takes 3 years to mature, but in order to have therapeutic grade essential oils, the lavender has to be 4 years old. Okay. It takes lavender 3 years to mature. But after growing the lavender for 2 years in 1991, he couldn't wait any longer. And he welded 2 pressure cookers together at home. And he put the lavender in and it distilled. And his first batch of lavender, he had 2 milliliters, 2 ml. Okay, our small bottles are 5 ml. You know, the 2 ml bottles, it is the one that came in with our PSK. You know, the teeny little ones? That's all he got. Well, he was very excited about it. And he had this friend, his name is Dr. Schnellbelz. And Dr. Schnellbelz is a chemist from Germany. He's really good. He's an expert on testing essential oils with the GCMS. So he couriered the essential oil to Dr. Schnellbelz and asked him to test it for him. And when Dr. Schnellbelz received it and tested it, he called Gary right away and asked him, where did you get this lavender oil, essential oil from? It's such high quality. It's the best I've ever seen. And Gary said, I grew it myself in my backyard. And Dr. Schnellbelz said, you're kidding. It's impossible. Nobody has ever grown lavender in the United States. And Gary said, well, indeed it was. I grew it. So, and that really gave him a lot of encouragement to keep going. And so this is Dr. Schnellbelz. This is the book that he wrote. And he actually talked about ingesting lemon oil and liver detoxification and how you can actually ingest essential oils. This is also a good book if you're into reading. Okay, and in order, just for the sake of, because a lot of the reason why I made this course is just to how do you say, kick the myths? How do you say it in English? Break the myth of essential oil not allowed to be orally ingested. To clarify the myth, but you know what I mean. Okay, so just for the heck of it, I actually use French and I was looking for essential oil research papers. And I found this, University of Toulouse. It's a thesis on pharmaceutical advice and usage of the most common essential oils. Okay. And 1.2 is oral use. And then here they gave you a chart on the uses of advantage and easy, convenient, different ways to use essential oils. Under the tongue, the advantage is easy, practical, and fast working. And the inconvenience is sometimes it can be aggressive for the digestive system and for the mouth. And to mix it in, HV means a vegetable oil. You can mix it in vegetable oil. It's more mild for the mouth, and it's more gentle, and it's preferable. It's delayed action, the inconvenient, and then, or you can take it in sugar or honey, or you can make it into a liquid like syrup, or you can take it ready-made gel capsule, or you can do self-made capsule. I'm not going to translate the whole thing. Okay, so you get the idea. So there is actually, so I know this is sort of like breaking up because I'm trying to like tell different stories of what happened with Gary back in the days. So that's why it's sort of like breaking up, and I'm trying to make it all make sense together. Okay. And then there was a story of helichrysum. I got this from one of these books, one of these two books. I can't remember which one, but I got this in one of these two books. It's on helichrysum, and it's a little story on helichrysum. And let's see. So in the summer of 1991, my son slammed the car door on his finger, splitting it wide open. At that time, I was working in my lab analyzing helichrysum. Knowing that it was antibacterial, I put it on the open wound before I prepared a basin of warm water to clean his finger. Within a minute after applying the oil, he stopped crying and announced that his finger didn't hurt. This is how I discovered that helichrysum had topical anesthesia-like activity. This experience led to the formulation of Panaway. As of this writing, Young Living purchases and distributes 98% of all helichrysum produced in the world today. In 1995, we purchased the entire crop of helichrysum from Corsica. I am just reading from this book. I'm not telling you to use helichrysum for injury. Okay, well, in Canada, you can, because in Canada, helichrysum essential oil is registered as a natural health product for injuries. So any Canadian members here listening on, you can use helichrysum on wounds and for injuries, but anywhere else in the world, you should not be using it because it's only for skincare and making your skin beautiful. Okay, understand, right? Okay. And helichrysum, in fact, the French name for helichrysum is immortel. So immortel means immortal, right? So you can't die. The reason is because helichrysum grows really fast. Even if you cut it off, it will grow back really quickly, okay? And it is important to keep in mind that many areas of essential oils have not yet been studied, particularly in the area of application, okay? You can screen cap this for your own use. You cannot share this on social media, okay? So you're just reading some information on helichrysum, the oil, all right? Okay, you all understand, right? If you understand, give me some likes. And let me know that you do understand and write it in the comment, because I don't want to get into trouble. I want to keep this very super compliant because we need to duplicate this, okay? You all understand, we need to protect ourselves, we need to protect the company. I'm just reading from this really old book. All right, okay. So, and then because he had found these essential oils to be so useful and being able to help so many people, he very quickly realized that he cannot do it on his own, right? So, and he knows that the network marketing business model is really good for word of mouth, especially because, thank you, Bill, for understanding, especially because the network marketing model is through word of mouth, right? And because a lot of his patients were brought to him through word of mouth, he felt that this was really important. So he wanted to make Young Living, this essential oil company, into a network marketing business. And he was in Spokane, and he looked up this amazing person. I think a lot of you know who he is. He's one of our diamond leaders. He's amazing. I follow him on Facebook. I follow him on Spotify podcasts. I love listening to his podcast. His name is Richard Blissbrook. He is a network marketing coach, business coach. And so this story actually is told better by Richard himself, but I'm gonna tell it here because Richard talked about it openly. And I love listening to the story. I can always listen to him talk about the story. It's amazing. And he admit to laughing at Gary back in the 90s, sometimes in the 90s. And in Spokane, where Gary heard of Richard Blissbrook, he was very successful in the network marketing business. And he was hoping that Richard can help him find a way to make this into a direct selling company with essential oils. And so Gary met with Richard, and Richard saw him. Yes, he is amazing. We all have to learn from Richard. His what do you call it? He has this podcast that is amazing. He also has a Facebook page. He invite all these really good people, really smart people, and we can all learn from him. Really amazing. Look him up. You'll find him. And so Richard saw him, this cowboy in his cowboy hat and his cowboy boots and his jeans with this little bottle of oil, and he said he want to make it into a network marketing company. Richard laughed at him and go, this will never work. Yes, and Road to Diamond. Oh, he has a few. He has like Road to Diamond. He has this other podcast. What is it called? Let me look it up. I have to tell you because I share this openly because I've learned so much from his podcast. Other than Eric Worre,
Authentic Networker.
Yes, Authentic Networker. Thank you, Gretchen. It's Authentic Networker. Oh my God, you all have to go follow him on Authentic Networker. It's a podcast. I've learned so much. It's not just about network marketing. It's about being a better person, working better. Anyway, let me go back to Richard. And so he, at that time, Richard looked at this country cowboy wearing a cowboy boot and his hat. And he was like, nobody's ever going to buy this little bottle of oils. You'll never be able to be successful. Don't waste my time. And he dismissed it. Okay. And I listened to Richard's story a few years ago, and it's amazing. And 26 years later, today, well, a few years ago, I got this from Richard's website. 20 years later, Richard became one of the very few successful, well-respected network marketing coaches in the profession. And he has coached many Young Living members into the diamond rank. And after a few years, he noticed something very special about this company. It's Young Living's high retention rate. And in 2017, he became part of the Young Living tribe. He sold his company to Young Living, and he became a Young Living leader. So if ever you have a chance to listen to him, you have to, because he's just have so much wisdom and so much experience, and really amazing, really. Okay, so even though people told Gary that you could not do it, he still did it. And when people told him that there's no way you're going to be successful, he did it, and he showed everybody that he did it, right? It's something that is really admirable. And next, I'm going to talk about where he learned his information. Okay, so how he discovered French lavender is in 1990, Gary met Jean Noel. Yes, it's actually, I can talk about a little bit about retention rate. Prasad said that our retention rate is 75%. I think that's for the first 3 months. On average, the retention rate of the MLM industry, if it's not fast-moving consumer goods, so say like water filter, vacuum cleaner, what else do they, the non-fast-moving consumer goods, right? It's 2 to 8%. If it's fast-moving consumer goods, which is supplements, usually it's like supplements or I don't know, what other network marketing company are there? Mostly supplements, right? So say supplements, it's usually 12 to 18% or the low 20s. Young Living over the year retention rate is around 45 to 55%. For 6 months, it's about 60 to 70%. So out of 100 members you have, 50 to 60 people would buy the next month, which is really high in the industry. Really, really high. It's like three times the industry average, right? So, and I encourage all leaders to look at your retention rate and calculating it by using a abundance tracker. If your ER rate is 50%, usually your retention rate is about 55 to 60 because there are people who place quick orders. And I always feel that you need to look into raising your retention rate to 50 to 60% before you start enrolling people. Because if your retention rate is 10 to 12%, 10 to 20%, no matter how many people you enroll, you keep enrolling, these people are going to drop off. You're actually opening them up to a negative experience with Young Living. So what I teach is you have to look into raising your retention rate before you look into keep enrolling new people, because you want to enroll the people and retain them. And that comes in with like education, product education, company education, and building relationship. Those are the important thing about keeping the retention rate high. I can talk about building in the 15th or the 16th episode, but let's go back to French Lavender, okay? And so in 1990, Gary met Jean-Noël Landau. If you know who Nicholas Landau is Nicholas' father, at a health exhibition in the US. And back in the 90s, I don't know if you're familiar that French people usually do not speak English. Because I went to school in Switzerland, the French part of Switzerland. So I used to travel to France every weekend. And when I go to France, I do not speak English. I noticed that if you speak English, they don't talk to you. And then because somehow, interestingly enough, the French people don't like to speak to people who speak English. So when I was in France, I would speak to them in Chinese or French instead of speaking English. If I speak to them in Chinese, they would talk to me. They would try to like show me what we're trying to can communicate. And if I speak in French, of course, they will answer me. But if I speak in English to them, they would ignore me. This is just my personal experience back in the 90s, 80s and 90s when I was in France. So back in the 1990s, Gary met Jean-Noël. And the reason why Jean-Noël spoke fluent English is because Jean-Noël's wife is American. It's from California. So she speaks English. And so they speak English. And so, so Jean-Noël was looking for a buyer for the lavender he grew. And when they met, he invited Gary to visit his lavender farm in France. And Gary said yes. And Jean-Noël thought, this American cowboy, of course, he's going to say yes. He thought he was like just saying things. And after 6 months, Jean-Noël received a phone call. And Gary said, I'm in France. I'm in Paris. I'm going to come and see your farm. And Jean-Noël said, well, I'm in the south of France. You have to take the train to come down here. And indeed, the next day, Gary was in south of France. He's taken the train and went down to south of France. So in order for you to know a little bit more about Jean-Noël's story and Nicholas Landau, I encourage you to listen to YL Drop, the YouTube channel, or Spotify, or I think it's also on Apple Music. Jacob Young's YL Drop, episode 4, he interviewed Jean-Noël, and Jean-Noël told the story of how he met Gary. And episode 25, he interviewed Nicholas, who is in this photo. Nicholas talked about einkorn and his story about his knowledge about einkorn. So I encourage you to also listen to these 2 episodes. If you are not already subscribing to YL Drop, I encourage you to subscribe to YL Drop and follow every single episode, because there's so much information, so many stories in that podcast. Okay. So this was Jean-Noël. This is Nicholas, who is now a grown man. And this is Nicholas' sister. And this was Gary. Okay. And this was taken back in 1991. Okay. So, and then they became good friends. And a year later, 1991, Jean-Noël introduced Gary to Marceau Espieu, who eventually taught Gary how to distill and grow lavender. And Marcel Espieu at that time was the president of Lavender Growers Association. And as I said, the French was a bit protective of their heritage and rather arrogant back in the days. And they were not willing to pass on their knowledge and culture to people from other countries. And Marcel was no exception. Although Gary was super eager to learn and had a lot of questions, and he was begging Marcel to teach him, Marcel looked at the American cowboy in his boots and hat and thinking, how do I say no to this guy? How do I make it so difficult that he won't stay? So he thought of a way. He told Gary to stay in the boiler room and work in the boiler room. The boiler room is super hot. It's where the cooker is, where they boil the water and to create the steam for the distillation. It's very noisy. It's very hot. He asked Gary to work in the boiler room, add fireworks, and tend to the steamer. And if you do that, maybe I will teach you. So Gary worked as a laborer in the boiler room and around the farm for 5 months. Eventually, after 5 months, Marcel really saw his dedication and really willing, because it's not easy to stay in the boiler room because it's really, really noisy and it's really, really hot. And he was so dedicated and he was so willing to learn. So Marcel eventually decided to teach him. And the next 5 years, Gary learned about lavender, how to grow it, how to harvest it, distill it. And meanwhile, he was also flying back and forth to the US to test out what he had learned from Marcel. And he would test it out in his own farm. And then later on, they became very close, like father and son. So this is Marcel and this is Gary. And these are all the old elderly people from the Lavender Growing Association. Okay. And so and he has been the president of the Lavender Growing Association for 27 years. He is the 8th generation of farming and distilling lavender. And because his sons went off into the city to learn about computers and medical engineer, and no one is interested in running the farm. So they taught Gary everything. And later on, Marcel went to visit the St. Marie's farm and in the Mona farm and spoke at the Young Living Convention in 2002. And he actually said, after learning what Gary was doing with his farm, he actually said on stage that the student has now become the master. So Gary has mastered and made better everything that he has learned from Marcel. And I have a video here that I would like to show you. The lady in the white shirt is Marcel's wife. And this was taken in 2014 at my first diamond retreat in France. And I witnessed the admiration, appreciation, and love of the French people on the farm that I met towards Gary. Let me show you.
Marcel's wife, Marta, and she's the one that would take care of me while I was here and feed me and make sure I ate. And wash my clothes, iron my clothes. She was my mom.
So, as you can see, Marcel's wife was very close to Gary, and he was very touched because I remember that year he said that he hasn't seen her in a few years. And Jean-Noel actually surprised him by asking, because he hasn't been back in France, in the French farm for a few years. So Jean-Noel actually surprised him by asking Marcel's wife to show up. And back then, Marcel has already passed away. And it was a very touching scene for all of us to see. And Marcel's wife was Madame Expier, was saying how she used to help wash and iron his clothes and cook for him and made sure that he ate because he was working really hard at the farm, at the distillery. And she couldn't speak English and Gary couldn't speak French. And so I started thinking, how did he develop such a close relationship with these French people who were arrogant and looked down on him in the beginning? What he actually did to touch these people in their heart. You know, what kind of person would be able to do something like that? And also, this is another story, was that back around 2009, the French True Lavender caught a virus and was dying because of all the spraying and all the chemicals that the other farms were using. The neighborhood in Provence, they were using on the French lavender. So they were dying and they caught a virus and they could not recover from it. Originally, the oil in the plant protects the plant from viruses and bacteria. But because of how the other farms, not the Young Living farm, the other farms were doing to the farm, they were killing the lavender. And so Gary, in 2011, he brought back the lavender seeds that he took to St. Mary's, and he brought the seeds back and he replanted it into the fields. So when I was there in 2014, the lavender has grown for 4 years already. And I remember seeing, I wish I had taken photos and videos of those people, of those French people. And I remember their faces, and they were talking about how grateful they are that Gary single-handedly saved French True Lavender. And Nicholas was translating, because Nicholas is fluent in English and French, and Nicholas was translating, and there was a line of elderly French people, and these were a few of them. Well, Marcel has passed away already, but I remember seeing all of them, and Jean-Marie Blanc, and Benoit, and this is Jean-Noël, and then eventually, because Gary saved lavender, they actually literally said that Gary single-handedly saved French lavender, and they were talking about how the farm, the lavender plants look exactly like they were 30 years ago, back in 2014, with the seeds that Gary brought back. And they were so grateful. And you could see, because these two people didn't speak English either, but you can see the closeness and the fondness that they have towards Gary, and they were so grateful. And so in that year, I think it was 2012, 2013, they all merged their farms into the largest True Lavender farm. And in fact, all of that area, they are co-op French farm lavender, and they provide for Young Living. In fact, Young Living now has the largest French True Lavender farm in the entire world. And I'll show you a little bit more information on the lavender here. So why is True Lavender so rare? And in fact, True Lavender, the species, Lavandula augustifolia, is the species, okay? A few years back, people started cloning them. The reason why they were cloning them was because they were dying. And it was cheaper to clone them because the yield is higher. And if you grow True Lavender, if it's from seed, it's called population lavender. If it's from clone, they don't use the seed, okay? So cloning, the rest of the cloning lavender is the same as the mother plant, okay? If it's grown by seed, all the plants are different, meaning that the constituents will be different, meaning that if you put it through a GCMS, the clone lavender would have the exact same results, and the population lavender would be different, okay? Does that make sense? So most of lavender in the market now that you can buy, if it says Lavandula augustifolia on the label, it's cloned lavender, and they're mostly from Bulgaria. And the French lavender that you can see, if it's labeled French lavender, is mostly lavandin. It actually smells different. It's a different plant. It's a different species, okay? This I actually found on the internet. 52% of the lavender in the marketplace is from Bulgaria. Only 26% is from France, and 12% is from China. And I encourage you to screen cap this. Go to the Young Living Hong Kong Facebook page, look up Nicholas Landau. You will see this video of Nicholas explaining clone lavender and population lavender. Okay, he spoke in English, so you'll all be able to understand. Young Living Hong Kong Facebook page, Nicholas Landau, you'll be able to find it. In Chinese, it's called Unveiling the Secret of True Lavender. Okay. And so I wanted to show all of you this page. I looked this up on Google. I want to show all of you the prices of Bulgarian lavender and population lavender and regular organic lavender, okay? So I found you can easily find this. I always say that I can actually make an essential oil company, you know, call it apothecary a la Joanne, and buy essential oils from the internet. These are ready to be labeled, private label ready, okay? Prices in bulk, 2 ounce. 1161. 2 ounces is about 60 ml, which makes four of our 15 ml bottles. Okay. Okay. So there are the regular ones, the price, and then there's the Bulgarian one, and then there's the French one, and then there's the population one. Okay. So these are the prices. Regular lavender oil is $2.90 per 15 ml. This is before the 15% offer because they're offering 15% off here. If you're buying like 25 pounds, they give you like a discount. Okay. So regular French lavender is $2.90. Bulgarian lavender is $3.26 per 15 ml bottle at cost. Okay. If it's French lavender, it's $6.77. If it's population lavender from seed, is $9.38. And usually, if you're buying, if you're trading, if you're buying something, if you're sourcing something for its wholesale price, you have to mark it 3 times the price of the price that you get it from. So in order for me, if I ever decide, which I will never do, open a company called Apothecary à la Joanne and want to sell population lavender, I have to price it as $30 a bottle in order to make a profit, in order to make it make sense, okay? How much is our lavender? I think it's 25, right? Okay, so this is what you actually get, the cost of comparing different types of lavender essential oil, okay? And then I also found Alibaba. Everybody knows Alibaba. I found this website. I found this organic lavender source. It says here, organic lavender certification. It has a certification and it's organic lavender, and the price is 77 cents per 15 ml. Okay, this is fragrance quality. This thing, they call it a therapeutic grade here. Okay, this is fragrance quality, is 77 cents per 15 ml. This would be the lavender that you buy in the grocery store, you know, the one that sets for diffusing, not even for topical use, okay? This is the cost of lavender, but is it really lavender? How can you use it? I mean, they call it therapeutic grade, but they only tell you to diffuse it and to apply it, dilute it on your skin, okay? It is not made for oral consumption. So what are you actually buying in the market if they sell you lavender oil? And then another thing is, if you buy lavender from France, most of them are lavender, as I said here. So Nicholas, if you listen to him in person, he usually has this trick that he shows. He has a bottle of lavender and a bottle of lavender, you know, these 2 different species, and he would let you smell it and ask you if it's lavender or lavandin. He said that for the people who are using Young Living, they can all tell which one is lavandin and which one is lavender. But the people who are not using Young Living, they will think that they will say that the lavandin is the lavender, because in the marketplace, if it's French lavender, most of them are actually made from lavandin, but it's actually a different species. Lavandin has a higher camphor level, so it's a little bit burning on the skin. And we actually, in Young Living, we use it, Gary put it in purification because it has a purifying effect on the skin. But you do not use that on burns because it will burn, okay? It may have this burning feeling, but you know how the French people use lavender for burns, right? So it's not the same thing and you don't use it the same way, all right? Okay, so this is the information that I really wanted to tell you. Because I think there's a lot of myth about essential oils that you can buy in the market, and they say, oh, it's so much cheaper, it's the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. And when people come to ask me, how is this brand compared to Young Living? I said, if they can be orally ingested, then I may think about it. But if they do not have their own farms, that means they're buying from these people. Then how do you control the quality if you're buying from, what do you call it? Sellers? I'm lost with the English words, but you know what I mean, right? If they do not have their own farms, it means that they're buying from these sellers. So you cannot, there's no way you can control the quality. Okay, so let me go back to the education that Gary has, the people that Gary has learned from. The first person would be Dr. Jean-Claude Laplace, other than Marcel. This would be the, middlemen, you know, the brokers. Yes, that's what Gary called them, the brokers, essential oil brokers. You buy, if they do not have their own farm, it means that they're buying essential oils from brokers. If you're buying them from brokers, how do you know that they are, third party? How do you know of the quality, right? You can use the GCMS, you will know a little bit. I will talk more about that in the class with the essential oils, which is I think the 14th class. Okay, so let me go back to the material here. Is one of them is Jean-Claude Laplace, which he mentioned previously. He studied under his direction in 1985, 86, and 87. He is a medical doctor, and Daniel Penoil, he's a student of Jean Valnet. Jean Valnet is the first medical doctor to research and write about medical application of essential oils. You can actually look him up. He is the doctor that he was studying. He was doing some essential oil research, and then he was working in his lab and he burned himself. And then he burned himself. The first thing that he had close to him was lavender oil. So he poured the lavender oil on, just to soothe it. And it quickly, the burn quickly subsided. So that's when he discovered medical uses for essential oils. Okay. And then later on in England, he studied with various doctors and did research at Warwick University, University of London, and British Museum Library, and the Library of London, where he investigated the history of essential oils. And with Dr. Laplace, he actually written a lot of different books on essential oils and endology. And here he said that he is a French medical doctor, world-renowned pioneer. Oh, this is actually, I Googled him and I looked him up and I found this, okay? And because of this, we see evidence in the laboratory of oils increasing cellular oxygen as much as 21%. I found this in a quote of Dr. Laplace, okay? All right, the next teacher that he learned from was Dr. Hervé Casabianca. They were still like really good friends. He is a France's top essential oil molecular analysis expert. He analyzes skincare products, essential oils for the French government. He is the expert in setting the AFNOR and ISO standard for essential oils for GCMS and IRMS. Okay, AFNOR is the Association French Normalization Organization Regulation. So this is like the regulatory organization for France. Okay, and also the ISO standard, International Standard Organization, ISO. These are the standard of essential oil world based their test results on. Okay, and this is, this is the information. You can easily look him up. He is French. He works for the French National Center for Scientific Research. And from the year 1992 to 1994, he was introduced to Dr. Hervé Casabianca. He is the world's most acclaimed essential oil and plant molecular and analytical chemist. He started teaching him how to use the GCMS, and he also taught him what actually goes on in the world of essential oil adulteration and how to recognize it. Okay. All right. And this photo, I took this photo myself. This is Dr. Richard Carlson. This is Coley. You can follow Dr. Coley's Facebook. He's recently, in the past month, he's been talking about frankincense because he was actually sent to the Arabian country in Oman in search for sacred frankincense by Gary. Gary sent him to Oman to look for sacred frankincense. He talked about it on his Facebook. So go ahead and follow him. He's going to be at convention at the farm booth, and he will share his experience with searching frankincense. That was around the same time when I met him. So he was very excited. He always talked about his frankincense journey. And this is Dr. Carson. He was also on the YL Drop podcast. You can go look him up. He has been, Jacob has interviewed him a few times. It's very interesting. He still works at Young Living at the lab. And this is Dr. Casabianca. This photo was taken in the convention of 2013. And this is the information on Dr. Casabianca. This was the website of Institute of Science Analytics. And he's very, very well qualified. He's the best in the essential oil testing world, okay? And then another person that Gary learned from was Philippe Mihabio. So this was his book. He actually is the person who studied emotions and essential oils. And he wrote this book on personality of aromatherapy oils and their link to human temperaments. And Gary said that he changed his Gary said that with what Philippe was doing, it really opened up his world of essential oils on how it can affect our emotions. And I think we all benefit from it, right? Like the feelings kit, One Heart, joy, we all benefit from this kind of study, is that essential oils in emotions, right? And then also Dr. Radwan Farag, he learned from Egypt. Dr. Farag is an expert on essential oils and the respiratory system. He has written and published 92 research papers on essential oils, and he received more awards than anyone in the world in this field. Dr. Farag documented oxygenating molecule activity in essential oil and was responsible for the discovery of the antioxidant and antimicrobial activity. He learned it in, he still teaches in the Cairo University now. This, I Googled him and looked him up. These are all the studies that he has published. And when Gary met him, it was in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And he also studied, I'm sorry, I think I messed it up. Dr. Farag, okay, sorry. Dr. Farag was in University of Cairo, and Gary spent 200 class hours with him. And Gary also went to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem to identify historical references to essential oils in the Bible, especially in the life of Christ. And he said that over the next several years, I returned to Europe many times to study at several universities. Whenever there was a class or seminar on essential oils, he was sure to be there. Okay, he went to Vienna, in the Geneva, London, Paris. And so Gary actually spent so much time studying essential oils, and he was looking for anything essential oil related. And then he also went to Turkey and studied at this university with Dr. Baser. Okay, apologies if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. I Googled this and I looked this university up. It's still there. It's in Turkey. I don't know how to pronounce this word. They still have this gas chromatography course. It's a doctorate degree. It's a PhD doctorate degree. Okay, Department of Analytical Chemistry, doctorate degree, PhD in gas chromatography. Okay, it explained the history of the GC, explained the theory of GC, explained the separation mechanism of GC, explained the components of a GC instrument. We'll be able to evaluate method development parameters of the GC. Okay, so Gary learned this. So he said as he was in search of his knowledge, he was able to study at the Albert Vieille Laboratory and Valaris in France to further his chemistry education in gas chromatography. In 1995, while presenting in UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization conference at the Anadolu University in Turkey, I was invited by Professor Hasnu Basa to attend classes in gas chromatography and mass spectrometer. I accepted the offer, and in 1997, I was enrolled in 120 hours of practical training in essential oils, plant compounds, and analysis. And then, meanwhile, at the same time, he was also learning from Henri Viaud, the Grandmaster of Essential Oil Distillation in France in 1992. And just like most Frenchmen, Henri Viaud was not interested in teaching Gary much because of where he came from. But eventually he was really moved by Gary's passion and commitment on essential oils and all the questions he was asking. And eventually, Mr. Viaud told Gary very slowly, if you want true essential oil, you must farm them yourself. Otherwise, after 20 years, you will not find true essential oils. And that indeed has come true, because that was 30 years ago when Henri Viaud said that. And this is the book that he wrote, Henri Viaud, on the distillation and quality and control of pure essential oils. Okay, and this is Henri Viaud. This was him. And in 1992, Gary and Jean Noël rented the first piece of land in France, and they grew lavender there. Okay. And in 1992, Mr. Vio taught him to become the nose of essential oil. I don't know if you've heard that Gary actually could tell the constituents of an essential oil just by sniffing it, and he's on the dot. Like there's so many different stories that this has happened. Gary could taste the soil and tell the pH and the compound, like the nitrate compound in the soil. And when he sniffs the oil, he can tell the constituents, the percentage of the constituents, right? If you do it well enough. Okay, and then growing essential oils. We're nearly done. Growing essential oils. So in Saint-Mary's in 1992, around the same time when he rented the land in France, he also bought land, a 160-acre piece of land in Saint-Mary's. And nothing has been grown on this land for 50 years, but the soil pH was 4.5, which was not suitable to grow anything. And he spent the entire 1993 nourishing the land until the land was pH 7.5. And this was suitable for growing lavender. And in 1993 and 1994, he cultivated the lavender babies in the nursery and a glass house. And in May 1994, the lavender babies were first planted onto the field, was transported into the field. And he invited a lot of members to help. And I'm sure a lot of current members were there and they know all these stories, and they planted 45,000 lavender trees, and every seed was carefully chosen by hand. And we still chose our seed by hand. We still plant them by hand, and we still harvest them. And I don't know if you know that Gary actually invented his own lavender cutter, because in order to harvest lavender and protect the root, Gary found out that you have to cut, I don't know how many inches away from the ground. Otherwise you would hurt the root. And he could not find a harvester that would cut that far away from the ground. So he actually made his own. So, and I encourage you to follow Jason, I forgot his last, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, from the Young Living Farm. He is the manager there, and he always posts all these videos of our goats. I don't know if you know that we're actually grazing goats, lamb and goat, lamb. They're lambs on our farm, so that they can help us eat the weeds and fertilize the soil. It's really cute. You guys need to go look him up on Facebook. It's very, very sweet. And in France also, we also have lambs to help us weed the farm and fertilize the farm. And also we are growing bees. We have a bee farm in the France lavender farm, and then so that they will help us pollinate the lavender trees, right? Lavender plants, lavender trees, lavender plants. Yeah, okay. So, and so Gary is a farmer, and he's very proud to be a farmer. And in 1993 and 94, he would get up every morning at 5 a.m. and work until it's too dark to work in the farm. And he was also growing clary sage and peppermint. And he found that too much rain or too much sun will make the plant moldy. So luckily it doesn't rain that much there, and the weather is perfect for growing lavender. And then he also found out that in Spokane, the deers love to eat the clary sage plant, and then they would give birth to twin babies. And he thought of different ways to try to protect the clary sage plant from being eaten by the deer, but he couldn't stop them. So finally he had to move all the clary sage from St. Mary's to Utah, because there's no deer in Utah, in 1995, so they can eventually grew well enough to be harvested and distilled. And yes, and so he bought the Mona farm in Utah in 1995. Okay, sheep and llamas. Yes, llamas. Do we have llamas there too? Oh my God, they're so cute. You guys have to look at it. Super cute. And I think that's all for today. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about Ecuador and why and how he built the farm in Ecuador. I think that's all for the stories that I wanted to talk about today. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comments, or this is like way too much information. Way too much information to be, all right, let's see. Okay. Yeah, must to protect. Oh, yes, recently, right? Yes, recently, because she was talking about how we're protecting the baby sheep. Ah, yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Eddie. You're a big fan. Yeah, so feel free to add more people into the group. Tell your upline about it, tell your crossline about it, tell your downline about it, tell your team about it. And feel free to screen cap, except the 2 pages that I said you cannot. And about the information on the antimicrobial and all that, non-compliant stuff that we're not supposed to talk about, don't talk about that. If you have the own information, that's why we share this into a group. And it's all just knowledge to help you with understanding more about our Young Living products and where our products came from. And from now on, if people ask you about essential oils and what about that other brand, you can tell them that, can they be orally ingested? If not, then probably not. If they can, I would really look at whether they have their farms or not. If they do not have their own farms, I would not risk it because they get it from brokers. And when you get it from brokers, you can't really tell the quality, right? And yeah. So yeah, that's it. All right. Thank you guys for today. If you have any questions, ask in the comment and I'll reply. And please share this. And please don't forget to make a post in your Facebook about what you learned, the best takeaway from today, and then hashtag it 101 reasons for YL. Okay, hashtag it 101 reasons for YL and share the story. If you have screen cap, something that is compliantly, you can share it about, especially about Gary's journey. Please do. And I would love to be able to see all those takeaways so that I know what you're taking away from this class. And I'm here to give you the information that you need to share Young Living and for you to understand more about Young Living. And until then, I will see you next week and we will talk about Ecuador. Okay, bye. Thank you. How do I?